Letters stamped in scarlet ink, soft words the palace chose to think, a careful tone, a measured plea for process and propriety. From King Charles III came the line, the law must run in its own time, and no guilt declared, no fire, no flame, just distance wrapped in royal frame. There's a name that echoes down the hall, a prince who used to stand so tall. Prince Andrew, once Neville pride, now walks where shadows cannot hide. Photographs and whispered claims, jet set nights and gilded games. The world watched as the story grew, and silence said what words never do. Behind the gates, behind the crest, tradition does what it does best. It waits, it shields, it draws the line between the public and the divine. The crown says nothing, but the world can see power dressed in legacy. Gold leaf truth on history's page. Dude, he's standing center stage. Names once spoken in delight now drift through scandal in the night. The crown says nothing still, but the silence echoes louder than will. A financier with a private sky, who lived while justice passed him by. Jeffrey Epstein, a ghost in suits, a king of secrets, power pursuits. Islands floating far from law, doors that open without a flaw. Connections stitched in velvet thread now haunt the living and the dead. The cameras flash, the lawyers speak, the monarchy grows calm, not weak, just ancient in its quiet way, letting storms exhaust dead. The crown says nothing, but the past won't fade. Deals in shadow never paid. Titles carved in marble white. Candle drawn electric light. Empire built on myth and grace now stares at its own reflection's face. The crown says nothing still, but the silence bends to public will. The British royal family survives the fall. It's seen the rise and buried all. Wars and abdications too, and scandals dressed in mourning blue. Not guilt, not proof, not whispered blame, but history rarely stays the same. The people watch, the people weigh what crowns endure and what decay.
I want to ask you one thing in particular because you've been married with it. Just nickname. Just nickname.
On nickname? Which nickname?
I think it's a Randy Andy.
I'll tell you exactly where that originated from. My second day at public school.
Was it 14, 15 years old?
I'm afraid so. I was unfortunate enough in my early days at Launceston not to realise the rules of the house, which were that you weren't allowed in the girls' house. That's actually true, and I was unfortunately caught going through a door in the girls' house saying words and it stuck. Not many people use it nowadays, but I don't think that it actually fits today anyway.
It's been a day etched, chiseled into the history of the nation. The good news is that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is free and on his way home to have a stiff drink and say to himself, happy birthday. And what a birthday surprise Andrew has had today. Unlike anything we've ever experienced before, going back to the days of King Charles I. Welcome everyone. This is MattTaylorTV. It's Thursday the 19th of February 2026 and I am your host, Matt Taylor.
Subscribe to MattTaylorTV. Subscribe to MattTaylorTV. Dynasty coming to another crashing end.
Yes, indeed. And now, of course, rule dynasties inevitably come to an end. I think I've done a... Well, I've definitely done a article about this in my Guerrilla Democracy News. It's called... I think the title is Simmering in Shit Since 1066. Let's see if we can pull it up, maybe. Guerrilla Democracy News. And the point I want to make is that, of course, dynasties come and go. Let's... Guerrilla. Dynasties come and go. That's the nature of a rule dynasty. So, simmering in shit since 1066. Isn't it interesting that our history only starts from 1066? I've always found it interesting anyway. No, so, for example, the Normans, that rule dynasty lasted for 88 years. The Plantagenets lasted for 245 years. House of Lancaster, 62 years. House of York, 24. The Tudors, 118. The House of the Stuarts, 111. The Hanovers, 196. And as of 2013, which is 7 plus 6, which is 13 years ago, the House of Windsor had been 103. So now we've got the House of Windsor and now on 126 years and going. But the point I'm making is rule dynasties come to an end. And it can be argued that we are seeing the demise of the Windsor royal family. Now, of course, you know, a lot of these cases, it'll be a different name, same faces. We may have either William or George on the throne, maybe with another name. They may dump the Windsors and adopt the Rothschilds. We don't know. But either way, we are looking at the biggest scandal to hit the royal dynasty since Charles I was beheaded. Now, the title of this is Let's Talk About Rex. Now, who's Rex? Rex, of course, is Italian for king. The Italian for queen is Regina. And so I found it interesting when we had the king's communicade, the communication from the royal communication. I'm sure everyone is familiar with it, but let's just remind the audience of what the king had to say today. A statement from His Majesty the King. I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. Charles R. So that's my impersonation of Charles R. Charles Rex, Italian, sorry, it's Latin for king. And really there's been enough talk about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor today, okay? So, and we're being saturated. I took great delight by watching Dan Woolton. So I enjoyed watching that coverage. But listen, ultimately everything has been said about Andrew. But now what really needs to be discussed is what next. Because a precedent has been set. If you're friends with a paedophile, the light of accountability will be shone upon you. And of course, as we all know, regrettably, because I'm sure none of us want to admit this from our Rex, but Charles Rex has also had a lifelong friendship with paedophiles, be it Bishop Peter Ball or Jimmy Savile, who's certainly not civil. And so there has to be a discussion, and it's already been made out there. What's good for the prince is good for the Rex, is good for the king. And ultimately, the Windsor brand is stained beyond cleaning, so to say. The brand has been soaked in filth for so long that you just simply won't be able to wash away the stains, regardless of how much stain remover you use. The stains have been indelibly soaked in, so to say. There is no coming back. The brand has been tainted. And none of us want a monarchy associated with paedophilia or, in that case, misconduct in a public office. Now, of course, misconduct in a public office makes its own precedents. A public officer acting as such willfully neglects to perform his or her duty and or willfully misconducts him or herself to such a degree as to amount to an abuse of the public's trust in the office holder, while reasonable, without even reasonable excuse or justification. That's such a generic offence. It can be applied across the board. And inevitably, a lot of people are going to be caught under that umbrella. Willfully neglects to perform their duty to such a degree that it amounts to an abuse of the public's trust without reasonable excuse justification. That will also apply for the throne, the crown. Hello, Lenny. It's crazy, but it's happening. Does Andrew deserve it? Will Andrew even be charged with it? As we know, the first point to prove is that whether he willfully neglect to perform his or her duty. Can Andrew Mountbatten not argue that by sharing information with a world-renowned financier, who just happened to be a paedophile, by the way, but hey, he is a world-renowned financier, doesn't that benefit the UK in some way? I'm sure that's what his argument will be if it ever does go to court. He'll argue that I didn't willfully neglect anyone. In fact, the information I passed on to others just so happens to be a world-renowned financier who just happened to be a paedophile, would actually benefit the UK. So I was actually doing my job. I didn't willfully misconduct myself in any way, shape or form, and nor did I abuse the public's trust. In fact, everything I sent on to Jeffrey Epstein, in fact, benefited UK PLC. So, of course, the point I want to make is everyone has got an excuse, okay? Everyone has got an excuse. And from my own experience, I know the law isn't set in stone. The law is malleable. It's moldable. You can push it here and push it there. You can mold it into your own image. What I'm trying to say is that with the good enough lawyer, you can mold the law to your suiting. So there's no guarantee, even if Andrew does get charged with misconduct in a public office, that he'll be found guilty of it. But what it does provide is drama for the next 4 years, in which takes away the attention from something else. And as we've all come to learn in the truth movement, whenever there's a big Ferrari, and I'm not bringing Nigel into it, whenever there's a big fondue, or fondue, if you want to say it correctly, whenever there's a big fondue over there, it's usually been put on to hide and turn the attention from somewhere else. And I think maybe that's what is happening in this occasion. I don't know why they're trying to brain or gaslight us by saying the king never knew in advance. That's totally ridiculous to suggest that Rex didn't know of the arrest of his brother. I think it's naive. He may not have known officially. He may not have been told through official channels, but we have got such thing as an establishment, and the establishment has lines of communication. And so I find it a bit weird that the mainstream press are pushing that point that Rex didn't know beforehand what was going to happen today. Absolute rubbish. And I don't know why they would want to push that particular brain gaslighting aspect of today's events, which is undoubtedly an historic day and an historic turn of events. Hello, Brian. Good to see you in the house, Brian. Good evening, Matthew. Well, if I knew about Andy Pandy in the late 80s, what took so long to go through his devices and affairs? How do you like them apples pressed? Yes. And also, what I find interesting is that as part of an arrest, you have to provide your DNA. And would this be the first time that an authority outside of the inner circle of the rules would have taken a member of the Windsor family's DNA? It'd be interesting to see what they'll do when they run that DNA through the database. What other crimes will come up? I just want to read Brian's PC's comment again. Good evening, Matthew. Good evening, Brian. Well, if I knew about Andy Pound in the late 80s, what took so long to go through his devices and affairs? How do you like them apples, press? Will the Rule family survive this? Imagine if Randy died mysteriously in custody, just like his mate Jeff. How do you know for a fact that Epstein has died in custody? I mean, the whole world is a stage, and I am quite frankly not buying it, really, because it's too close to the bone. Because if they're going to do it to one, you may as well do it to all. And if you're going to arrest people for misconduct in public office, you're going to have to arrest a lot more. And if you're going to arrest people for having associations with paedophiles, rightly so, Rex should be next on the roll call. Because the inconvenient truth is that our Charles Rex has got more of an association with paedophiles than Andrew has ever had. And then, of course, as we get on with the clip straight away, Gordonston, a headmaster from Gordonston, was convicted of child abuse. That same school, the same public school in which Prince Philip went to, King Charles went to, and Andrew went to, and which undoubtedly child abuse was prevalent at. So there's the another argument, which was also being made today, that both Rex and Andy were sexually abused as children. And sadly, when you are sexually abused as a child, you grow up to be a damaged adult. And that's what we're dealing with at the moment. Lenny says Epstein grew Dr. Spock ears, according to Brian Harvey. Look, Brian Harvey's going to come into a lot of slack at the moment, isn't he? You know, he staked all his credibility on that picture being fake. It's come out that it's genuine. And then, of course, you know, is he going to get brownie points for taking Paula Mann to court? Just saying. Maybe he'd been back to planet Vulcan. Oh, you're on form tonight, Lenny. Do you think the old Bill will turn up the thermostat in that interrogation room to see if Randy sweats? Well, good one. Yes, I just realised how funny that is. He was in there longer than I thought. I was surprised he was in there so long. He grew Dr. Spock ears after he died. Clearly, he had shape-shifting abilities. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I'm still reeling after Jeanette Archer claiming that she witnessed the Queen and Prince Philip turn into reptilian aliens before her very eyes. I still can't get over it. Honestly, it just troubles me. It troubles me still to this day. And hey, we never even know. We don't know. Maybe, so of course, it's interesting how they've brought Andy in on misconduct in public office charges, because you would need a complainant to allege sexual crimes for them to bring them on under the sexual crimes, you know, offences. I was just thinking today, perhaps Jeanette Archer would be that person. over to Lenny. Emily Matis did the damage in 2019 to Randy, although it was an own goal on Randy's part. Absolutely. I mean, it was like you said, it was a self-inflicted wound, wasn't it? And it's a wound that's been festering ever since. Is Supervillain Puddock going to bring Randy a case of gin while in custody? I mean, if Andy ever was charged and convicted and sentenced, it would be in an open prison, the cushtiest prison out there, no doubt. But still, it's impressive what's happened today. It's absolutely bloody goddamn impressive. Where that takes us is anyone's guess. I'm a big believer, or, you know, that the whole world is a stage and everyone upon it are players. And this has all been done for our amusement as such, to keep us occupied. So I'm open to the suggestion that all this is a play. Over to Brian. No, Matthew, as Mr. BH is a legend, calling this out and keeping to his word when he said, I'm going to fuck you all. Yes. Yeah, it would be good to hear from Brian, you know, especially when we've had confirmation from Ghislaine Maxwell that the photograph was legit. The only criticism I've now got is because it affects his credibility. He staked a lot on that photograph being genuine, and that photograph appears to be genuine when he staked his credibility that it wasn't. He's also said, oh, I was part of the conspiracy because I take my abuse too well. That's a load of rubbish. And then because of that, can we even believe anything he has to say about, not so much believe, but can we take him on the level when he talks about Liam Payne from One Direction? Also, many other true points. Yes, you know, that's a good point, because I was just going to say, I think you've done a great job exposing Bill Maloney, Chris Fay, trying to set him up. No, he proved the ones in the hall was fake by using software. He explained this clearly. Matt, maybe the police are asking Randy about the red rooms. Was he in there with Ghislaine, Rolf Harris, and all these wrong-uns? Well, we never know what kind of line of questioning that went down, didn't he? But I imagine it would specifically be about passing information onto Epstein with reference to the emails, if you know what I mean. So look, I don't feel as if we're prejudicing the case in any way, only because it's already out there in the public domain. But let's just have a quick look through some of the emails that apparently got them into so much trouble, shall we? Let's talk about Rex. The emails that show Andrew leaked trade secrets to Epstein. And this was today. From the Duke to Jeffrey. Attached is a confidential brief produced by the Provincial Reconstruction Team in Helmand Province for international investment opportunities. Before the latest release of Epstein files, it was thought most likely that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor would face arrest over allegations of sexual misconduct towards women trafficked by the financier. The former prince has been accused of rape by the late Virginia Giuffre, which he consistently denied. In 2022, he paid her a reported $12 million to settle a civil case that's brought against him. In fact, that's reminded me of something, that is. Let me see if I can pull it up. What's her name again now? What's her name? God, what's her name? What's her name? I've forgotten totally what her name is. Oh, yes, there it is. Let me play this for you to...
Guerrilla Democracy News. Prince Andrew pedophile scandal deepens. Prince Andrew's insistence that he did not know about the terrible crimes of his friend Jeffrey Epstein has been challenged again by a new witness in the latest torrid pedophile scandal to hit the British royal family. Facing the real possibility of a criminal investigation and jail, a witness called Jessica Collins has publicly stated that both Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew had drugged and raped her. She said, "I was driven by Jonathan Luna to the Bethesda Marriott Inn on Pook's Hill, where Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor drugged and raped me." Buckingham Palace has yet to comment.
I am a real victim of Jeffrey Epstein. The reason you don't see me in the news is because I am a real victim. Real victims are not being represented by attorneys or in the media. I was trafficked to Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor by Deborah Palfrey, the DC Madam. I was a student at the Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. in 2002. I answered an ad in the city paper. The ad was ambiguous. Deborah was professional. I thought I was going on a real job interview. Instead, I was drugged and raped by Paul Hung. I tried to tell Deborah what happened, but something she said made me realize she knew what happened. At that point, they had my driver's license, and I did not know what to do or where to go for help. At that point, I was driven by Jonathan Luna to the Bethesda Marriott on Pook's Hill, where Jeffrey Epstein and Andrew Windsor drugged and raped me. I have tried to get help. I called the police. I was abducted for 2 weeks. I was moved from Washington, D.C. by Ed Norris, who was the superintendent of the Maryland State Police. He is now an actor on the show The Wire and has a radio show. My name is Jessica Collins. I live in Virginia. Today is September the 3rd, 2019. If anything happens to me, it's because this information is true, and I have a lot more information about who I was trafficked to in the government, people who are in the White House today. If you could redistribute this video, please save it and redistribute it. If anything happens to me, at least I have this out. I have been threatened. My car was disabled by a government employee when the Jeffrey Epstein news broke. I have been without a vehicle for 40 days. I don't know what else to say. Please save this video. Please redistribute it. Please try and spread it. There is no way that this is going to get out there in the media unless we, the American people, do the work. The government is involved, and I was trafficked for nearly 17 years. Please try to help by redistributing this, tweeting it, talking about it. I'll do everything that I can. Thank you for listening. I hope that together we can get to the bottom of this and hold the criminals accountable.
You see, the thing that's very interesting, what she said was that the government is involved. And that gets to the very crux of the situation we find ourselves in. Can we trust anything that the government does when the government is itself involved in the criminality? And the answer is obviously no. We cannot trust anything the government does when it is itself implicated in the criminality. Yes, thank you, Brian. Crux. The crux. The crux of the matter is, can we trust a government that is itself alleged to be part of the problem? It's an obvious no. It's an obvious no. Matt, if Andrew is charged, he may unalive himself to avoid court, just like Jeff expired or was expired. Listen, I'm with you on it. I'm looking at James Herbert's last book. If you don't know, James Herbert is the godfather of British horror. And the last book he wrote before he died was called Ash, a fantastic book in which it talks about a stately home up in Scotland where everyone who fakes their death goes to live out their dying days. And yeah, I mean, of course, this is going to play out to the next 3 to 4 years. And it's going to be great drama, and it's going to take attention away from the serious crimes that not only Andrew participated in, but what other well-known celebrities, be it from politics, royalty, religion, or entertainment, currently indulge in. Because nothing has stopped. The abuse, the criminality continues, and it's up to a criminal system to ensure that they can continue their criminality undetected. And what better way to do this than to occupy everyone's attention with a news-breaking arrest of Andrew? So, of course, while anyone would welcome this development, you have to keep at the back of your mind, we're being played, just as we've always been played, and how we're going to continue being played, because we have to be played for the evil to carry on being evil. Lenny says, it's like a quasi-religious country. A constitutional monarch by name is biased towards allowing these rules to do what they like. Absolutely, and they've been doing what they like since the dawn of humanity. Brian says, well, Britain thrived on trust and trust in the system. Let's see what comes out of misplaced trust. Oops, it already has. The only thing I can hope for is a miscalculation, because obviously they're sailing close to the wind. They've got a plan. It's risky, but they're going for it, hoping for the best. So what I'm hoping for is a mishap along the way, something they haven't calculated for, something that we can do as a collective to rock the boat and knock and bang the machine kind of way. Do you know when you bang a machine, you get a scratch, you get a bump? And that's what I'm hoping we can do, because the big truth I've taken out of all this is that public opinion counts for a lot. In fact, public opinion means everything. Public opinion really shapes the world, and it shapes them, the evil in society, to make their moves based on public opinion, because ultimately there's more of us than there are of them. And this is something Prince Harry alluded to. He says the biggest fear of the royal family is the press turning on them, because they know when the press turns on the royal family, the public will turn on the royal family, and then it's dynasty over. And then they'll have to come up with a new grand scheme, which I think, in all probability, will be King George. Because isn't there nothing better than to have a boy king on the throne. It'll be fantastic. So yeah, we are being played just as we've always been played. But where is it going to take us? It's going to take us where they want us to be taken. Remember, we're like the cattle and we're just being herded about. Watch this, do that. Over to Lenny, who says, Charles' quick statement today tells us he knew Randy was getting lifted, of course. A couple of days ago, Rex said that he's going to help the police with their inquiries in any way they can. So I don't know why the mainstream media are gaslighting us, wanting us to believe that that Rex had no foreknowledge of today's events. Of course Rex would have had foreknowledge of today's events. May not be through official lines, but the establishment have lines of communication, and it's just silly. It's so why they're telling us, it's obvious that they're lying to us. That's the point I want to make. It's obvious we're being played. But now we know what they know, so to say. Over to Lenny, says King Chaz said, let due process do its ting. He is trying to pretend this isn't his baby brother getting perp walked up the steps like any other sex case. Fantastic. And it's, and again, disingenuous. If you want to be that personal king, that personal touch, fucking acknowledge the fact that he's your bro. Because he's walking away, he's washing his hands. But the thing is, and it's inevitable this is going to happen, and it already is happening because I can hear it across the internet, that Charles is going to be brought into the conversation. Rightly so. Anyone who associates with paedophiles should be red flagged. And that applies to the Rex as well, not just to Andy. Well, he was arrested for misuse of trust in public office. Is this going to be a pick this, leave that alone interview with Andy Pandy? Well, he was arrested for misuse of trust in public office. Is this going to be a pick this, leave that alone interview with Andy Pandy? Could well be. But there's more chance of him getting away with misconduct in public office than there is of sex charges. I mean, already we've got Jessica Lee Collins, who can make a complaint against Prince Andrew that she was drugged and raped. We've just seen that. I mean, really, Brian needs to explain. I don't really understand that. When he was arrested for misuse of trust in public office, yes. Is this going to be a pick this, leave that alone interview with Andy Pandy? Have Pizza Express and Woken made any statements about Randy's arrest? Randy's ludicrous alibi made him a laughingstock at best and guilty as fuck post Emily Matus interview. There's every chance of him not getting charged with misconduct in a public office, because his argument just needs to be me telling a renowned world financier was benefiting the UK. Prove to me, because remember the emphasis is on a Crown prosecution to prove that he benefited personally from the emails he sent. So his argument is going to be, hey, listen, I was doing my job. It just so happens that the world's renowned financier was also a paedophile. But that aside, giving information to Jeffrey that can be passed around his network was actually a good thing and an act that benefited UK PLC. I know it's crazy, but that's what these crazy nutters do. They mold the law because they've got the money to mold it. As I've already said today, the law is not set in stone. It's not chiseled in in the kind of thing Moses brings down from Mount Sinai. No, The law is malleable. The law is bendable. And I first read that quote in Stark by Ben Elton. There was a great line when Ben Elton makes that analogy. If you've got the money, you can bend the law into whatever you want the law to be. Check it out. Well, he was arrested for misuse of trust in public office. Is the interview going to be a pick this subject only, but do leave that alone type of interview with Andy Pandy? Lost his dukedom and prince title, banished, exiled from Royal Lodge. Now this on his 66th birthday. His daughters must be fucking mortified. Absolutely, Lenny, absolutely. And of course, you know, ultimately, they're a close-knit family, okay? There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind closed doors that we will never find out. In fact, that reminds me again of what something Prince Harry said in his autobiography. He says whenever they ever get together in a party, they lock the doors. Isn't that weird? They actually lock the doors. So no one knows what goes on behind closed doors when the Windsor royal family get together. No doubt they shed their skin and all slither about like the bloody reptiles that they are. Over to Brian, who says, or everything's on the table interview type. Or will the police pander to the higher power? What is the higher pander? Oh, sorry. What is that higher power? Is that monarchy? Every police officer pledges their allegiance to the crown, to the monarchy. They do not pledge their allegiance to the people. So they're all in the pockets of the crown, the monarchy. And so, yeah, while today has been historic, we are also being played. We're being played good and proper. But there's a scope for us to bang the machine, so to say, to cause a glitch. We can do this. We don't have to go along totally with their plan. We can change it. We can nudge it in the other direction. Are you on your oath, sir? Yes. There you go. That was even before I even passed the training. That was the first thing that happened when I enrolled as a Royal Military Policeman. In that recruitment office, you stand in front of a picture of the Queen with your hand on your heart and you make that oath straight away. That's the first thing you do, even before you get a king's shilling. You make that oath straight away. As soon as it's viable, get that oath in. So, DNA from Andy, interesting. I'd like to see what else, what other crimes are going to be brought up. And I like to think this is a fishing exercise. That they get him in on the lesser charge of misconduct in public office, which in all probability he could get away with a good enough lawyer. Because it's up to the prosecution, it's up to Rex, his brother, indirectly, to prove that he benefited from the emails he sent around. And of course, his argument will be, well, I was doing my job. By sharing this information with a world-renowned financier, I was benefiting UK PLC. It just so happens that this world-renowned financier was a paedophile. It ain't my fault, Governor. I never knew. As far as I knew, all the girls were over 12. Lenny says, Brian Harvey TV thinks the infamous photo of Randy is fake. Randy might need BH to defend him in court. I don't think men's rear will get him off. Yes, he'll have a bit of stuff up the men's rear in prison, that's for sure. Maybe even the open prison. Disgusting creature. Maybe this is why Harry got out. he knows Rolfing is septic. Well, it is, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people in the truth movement, we know the rumours. We know what's being alleged. And funny enough, I'm hearing more of it on the mainstream media. I was watching Benny Jones. Is that the Benny from America? Benny Johnson show, maybe? And we had this lady on there, Linda, and she's talking about it. So we're hearing it more and more often. We're hearing about the child abuse. We're hearing about the satanic child abuse. We're hearing about the cannibalism. And now Pizzagate is back in the ring, back in the arena. So apparently the Epstein tapes can like validate the Pizzagate scandal that was just wiped under the carpet by calling it fake. And so I do think evil think they've got it under control. That's why we're seeing today's events. Evil thinks they're on top of it. But my argument is there's still scope to fuck it up for them. Because there's more of us. And we can subtly bang the machine. We can nudge it. We can make it skip. We can make it glitch. And I think that's the only way we're going to make a difference. That's the only way we're going to save our future. Because evil has got the future written down and being played out. But we need to change the future that evil has got in store for us. And the only way to do that is by nudging it off course. And I think that's the best we can do at the moment. Nudge it off course. All hope is not lost. I was listening to an interview on 2000 AD with the absolutely famous, brilliant, legendary John Wagner, the writer of Judge Dredd. According to John Wagner, he's given up. He thinks humanity's doomed. Future generations are absolutely doomed and will end up with a future of, authoritarian control like Judge Dredd. John Wagner is just hoping he'll live out the last of his years in peace and that Judge Dredd won't be knocking on his door anytime soon. And I go along with that to a certain extent, but I do believe we have a window of opportunity. And that's firstly by acknowledging that we are being played, acknowledging that evil have set out the next 100 years. They've got it written down as a blueprint. And there is scope for us to make a difference. We just need to knock it off course. And then it's easy sailing. And the longer that goes on, the further we'll get away from evil's initial plan. So these are delicate times at the moment. Let's be careful about what's being told to us. And let's discern what's being told to us and use our own common sense. Let's not be gaslit by the mainstream media. Brian says, maybe the same lawyer as Brian Harvey did Harry as well. Yeah, well, we know about that, don't we? Certainly seems that same smearing campaign for years actually happened through the press, with the hope of silencing witnesses and victims from the UK and also worldwide. Yeah. Because that's the thing. They're all at it. And I know that's it's easy to say they're all at it, but they are all at it. And the reason they are in their positions of power, which they are at the moment, is because they're at it. It's because the evil system only gives those positions to the people who are at it. So if you're not at it, you won't get into those positions of power. And the only reason those people are in the positions of power is because they're at it. And that's the enormity of the situation we need to get our heads around. And it is fucking scary, man. Because I totally sympathize with John Wagner when he says it's fucked. The future of humanity is fucked. There's no going back. And I get that. But also, we must never give up hope. There's a window of opportunity because there's more of us than there are of them. So we have to acknowledge and say, yeah, we are being played. And everything we're watching on the mainstream is gaslighting bullshit. And that's been proved today by saying that the King Rex wasn't aware of today's events. Give us a fucking break. Don't try and gaslight me, governor. Over to Brian. I mean, who gets paid a wage of 150k to help a poor housing estate on TV? There we go, man. The money is out there for us all to live our lives productively, fulfilling our potential. But that money's been squandered by evil for their own nefarious ends. Emily Matis might interview Randy Handy in HMS Wakefield. Well, that's brought a smile to Lenny's face. Andy Pandy's wife, she's another one who should be arrested. If we're talking about misconduct in a public office, she's done it. She's aided and abetted Andy. And in fact, if there is going to be another arrest, it may well be her. Now, of course, this is actually, thanks for bringing this up, Brian, because you're talking about the domino effect now. Now, I honestly thought Ghislaine Maxwell being arrested would be their domino. And perhaps it is, because the next one after Ghislaine has been Andrew. But we need Andrew to be locked up before we can say this is going in the right direction. But then again, even if he gets locked up, that may be part of the play. Because all they need to do then, once he's locked up, is get a body double in there, and Bob's your uncle. Or in this case, Mountbatten is your uncle. Andy can go and live up in a stately home in Scotland, never to be seen again. And his body double can get dispatched at evil's pleasure. But ultimately, whatever they're going to plan, whatever they're going to do is going to keep us occupied and keep them committing the crimes that they've become accustomed to committing. And it just so happens that these crimes include crimes against children, which makes it all the more disgusting and imperative that we do something about the evil regime that's ruling the world at the moment. There was a time the worst of Fergie's crime was licking some geezer's toes. Oh, God. Remember that front page? It was more licking. It was getting that toe right in there, giving it a good suck. You just imagine how good she'd be of giving a BJ, but let's just move on. It's not funny. It really isn't funny. Listen, I'm going to wrap it up in an hour. I'll catch you all again soon. But the points I wanted to make. Let's see who's next. Be aware we're being played. Be aware it's all theatre. Yeah, it's good. But I'm always skeptical. I'm skeptical of it all. Sometimes it's just too easy. And when things appear too easy, when things appear too good to be true, you know what I mean? And perhaps that's just my nature. It just seems too good to be true. But let's hope this follows through and delivers. What do we want delivered? We want people bigger than Andrew to be arrested and locked up. I mean, Andrew is small fry. As we're being reminded today, he's 8th in line. He's 8th importance. He's an 8th important of the big wigs. And this is a sacrificial lamb to the slaughter that's going to keep us all happy. But yeah, I'm going to continue watching. I'm going to continue discerning what's been said. But ultimately, what I wanted to talk about tonight was Rex. Because if it's Andrew today, it's got to be Rex tomorrow. It's got to be Big Brother. Because the Big Brother has just as much associations and friendships with paedophiles as Andy has. Then he says, Matt, strange this has happened at the same time as Brian Harvey versus Paula Mann trial coming up. Do you think so? Well, yes, okay, strange, but be aware, and good for bringing it up. It's good for bringing it up because we have to be aware of what else is going on in the world while all the attention is on this breaking news. Oh, big shout out to Justin in the house. King Charles is happy to turn his brother in, but he turned a blind eye to his buddy, Sir Jimmy Savile. Now then, how's about that then? And it's interesting, going back to the gaslighting of the mainstream media. The mainstream media want us to believe that these predators in the guises of Epstein and Savile latched on to high power. These predators targeted the innocent Andrew, targeted the innocent Rex. But I don't think that's the case. I think perversion is attracted to perversion. And so no doubt, Rex, Andy went looking for them. Over to Justin. No, sorry, over to Brian. Don't worry, folks. That trash plastic island is still there. And perhaps if Ghislaine Maxwell had started that charity to save the oceans, the world's seas would be clear of waste plastic by now, surely. Yeah. I tell you, and that's the kind of thing we need to deal with, is the plastics in our world oceans. That's the thing we got to sort out, mate. That's the thing we got to sort out. Hey, listen, I'm going to have a little break, okay? We're going to have a little break, play a song, and then we'll just recap and we'll play out the show. Well, it's not even a show, the discussion. It's not even a discussion. It's just me fucking ranting. Funneling a huge amounts of cash out of Britain enabled them, I guess, back to HMRC. So true. Listen, I'm going to play a promotional video. Be back in a mojo.
In a cottage on the Sandringham estate, where the Norfolk winds blow cold and straight, sits a man who once wore princely gold, now stripped of everything, stories told. His brother the king said, Andrew Lee, you're 20 years here, I want you to grieve. Not for the victims, not for the shame, but for the title, the house, the name. Oh, the prince won't fly to American soil, where the Congress awaits with their papers and oil, to light the questions he won't answer true. We're in this together, the old email flew. Rise above it, he wrote to his friend, but you can't rise when you're sinking in the end. No, you can't rise when the world's watching you descend. Virginia walked through the valley of night, 17 years old, caught in the flight of private planes and island shores, while princes opened golden doors. She took the photos, she told the tale. They called her liar, they called her frail. 12 million pounds pounds to make it go away, but justice don't settle, it waits for its day. Lenny watched on Catch-Up TV, said no God King is flying free, to face the music, to face the chair, where democracy asks, were you there? In the decadent bubble, the entitled air, they think they're divine, they think we don't care, but reverence crumbles when the truth lays bare. Gislin's email confirmed what we knew. The photograph held the arm around you. 2011 in this together you wrote, while Epstein's castle was losing its moat. The Met Police said not enough to charge, but history's ledger's writing it large. Stripped to the HRH out of the lodge, a problem they can't push under the carpet's edge. Oh, the prince won't fly and he won't come down from the tower of privilege, the crumbling crown. The gods we made of blood and bone are learning that thrones are made of stone. And stone will crack, and stone will break under the weight of the lives they take. Yes, stone will crack under the weight of the lives they take. Wood farm cottage, where the forgotten princes go, learn that gods once fallen have nowhere left to flow.
Yeah, thanks for your patience, everyone. Thanks for your patience. I like this comment by Babs McKay. It's not Babs McKay, it's someone pretending to be Babs McKay. Blah, blah, blah. It says, shows how much you know, dipstick. He's, Andrews, just been arrested. And they're going to eventually make him the big name scapegoat. I was going to... My mind wanted to say coat, but I'm glad I came out with goat. That will save Trump. And then they, meaning the Windsors, were a Hitler supporting German family, of course. So it's natural that Netanyahu, which I think is an Egyptian god from ancient times, will get his pound of flesh. I'll read that again without fucking making a right hash up of it. This was a comment left today by Babs McKay, obviously not the Babs McKay, but someone pretending to be Babs McKay. Yeah, it's one of the trolls, isn't it? Says, shows how much you know, dipstick. He's, meaning Andrews, just been arrested. And they're going to eventually make him the big name scapegoat that will save Trump. Really? Interesting. Will save. Yeah, it's interesting that you say Trump, because that implies Trump is at the top of the evil empire. Trump is at the top of the evil pyramid, so to say. They go on to say they, as in the Windsors, were a Hitler supporting German family, of course. So it's natural that Netanyahu, I think that's an ancient Egyptian god, and not the president, not the prime minister of Israel, will get his pound of flesh. But yeah, I get their point. This is all theatre. that detracts us from the real criminality that's going on in the world, so to say. I see what they're getting at. I can see what they're getting at. So yes, over to Brian. Why the criminal pattern was not obvious to the press? Well, the press are in with it, aren't they? The press only run with what the editors okay, and the editors only run with what the owners okay. So, you know, shit dripples downwards. Piers Morgan as well. I haven't seen his take on it yet. It's like a game of now you see it. Yeah. Yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see how all this pans out. I'm skeptical, only because it sounds too good to be true. The crutch of it, is let's talk about Rex, because that's the big fish, isn't it? That's the big fish. Prince Andrew is only an eighth of what the big fish is worth. And Rex is the big prize. Because if we're going to apply the same standard of expectation, the same standard of accountability onto Andy, that's got to apply to everyone, even the Rex, which, if anyone doesn't know what Rex is, it's Latin for king, as in Regina was Latin for queen. It's like a game of now you see it. Piers Morgan is in place as usual, replying by telephone on Sky. Listen, there's been so much said about Andy, and there's so much more to be said about Andy. I'm not going to bore you, even though it is boring. I get it, but it is fascinating. Of course it is. A lot of people think he got handcuffed. Do you think he would have got handcuffed? I don't think so, but it'd be interesting. Well, we're not going to hear anything from anyone about this. We're not going to hear anything from Andy. We're not going to hear anything from the royal family. We may get some insider news from the servants, but I doubt it. Either way, this just opens the door for speculation. And more speculation equals more chance of a tainted investigation, a tainted court case. I personally think there's every chance of Andrew getting away with this. He can argue that everything he passed on to Jeffrey Epstein was in the interests of UK PLC, and it'll be up to the prosecution to prove that he personally benefited but from the information he passed on. It would be amazing if he was convicted, and we can then give him the label of traitor Andy. But I honestly think everyone is a traitor, because evil promotes evil, and anyone who's evil in this day and age is a traitor to good, to God. I watched Out of Control today, and there was a clip in there of Eddie Murphy talking to someone, and he says about how Sammy Davis was a Satanist. And these Satanists believe that Satan has just as much power as God. And in fact, Earth is Satan's kingdom. So no wonder evil runs amok in our realm. Who owns the press? Asks Brian. Well, funny enough, Out of Control, this documentary I watched today, I mean, the press is more and more controlled by a select few, isn't it? Corporations own the press. And who owns the corporations? Men. And what are men? Flawed. Every man is flawed. Maybe not Brian, but I know I certainly am. Every man is flawed, and world wars have shown that every good man can commit evil. That's the flaw in humanity. No matter how much we say we're going to do something, there may well come a circumstance in which you'll do the very thing that you said you'll never do. Which men own the press? Well, who's on the board of directors of Disney? Who's on the board of directors of the 5 companies that own all the entertainment industries and news in the world? I mean, one of them is Murdoch. Murdoch family will be up there. They own the press. They own Fox and Sky, don't they? Yeah, but there's ultimately the people who own, the people who control are the people whose name we'll never know. That's the whole point of holding power. Well, we know Max Clifford didn't own anything. Murdoch may well does. Maxwell, there you go. All evil men, all thieves, all scoundrels. In fact, I've had great delight in reading the autobiography of Murdoch. Yes, he died in prison, didn't he? He died in prison. He got locked up for sexual offences. They're all at it. You have to be at it to get that position of power. Right, so time for another promotional video, and then I'm going to wrap it up, if you don't mind. Right, everyone, thanks for joining me. Hope you're all well. Massive day. I mean, it'll go down in history. Today will go down in history. Historic day, unlike anything we've seen since the days of Charles I. A royalty arrested for misconduct in public office. Wow, bloody wow. What I liked about today is that I've had the whole day for myself. What was Maxwell? Maxwell, he owned the Mirror Group, didn't he? He owned the Mirror Group. And his 2 sons are very active. I imagine his 2 sons, with all that money he nicked from the pension pot, has never been recovered as such. But you can ask his sons where that money went to. So what was I going to say? Look, the big question is, let's talk about Rex. Was he not a dirty? Well, he was alleged to be a Mossad agent, wasn't he? He was alleged to be a Mossad. Mossad. MOSAD. Slightly different subjects. We see Tommy Robinson has landed safely in America. And he will be back in May, apparently. Let's just hope there's no terrorist attack. Hey, we don't want any of those terrorist attacks this summer. We've got enough on our plates of Randy in prison. Well, you know, on charge. And that's something personally. There's a lot of stuff that's said on the internet, and there's a lot of stuff I do, which I'm not telling you about. And that's what I'd like to get into the habit now of showing you more of what I do online. Because there's a lot of stuff I do, and I don't really shout about it. And that's something I'd like to change. No. Harrods was Al Fayed. Was he alleged to have attacked women in a store? Al Fayed was alleged to have attacked women in his store. You know, Murdoch is Sky, Maxwell is Mirror. Max Clifford he was an agent to the stars, wasn't he? And of course, Al Fayed was the owner of Harrods. So listen, keep well. I'll catch up with you again. Okay. God bless. Bye-bye.
As you may know, I love being creative and expressing myself in songs and videos. My go-to AI software for creating original music is Suno. Check out my back catalog at suno.com, at MattTaylorTV Jukebox. Once I've got the music track, then the hard work begins. How do I accompany my music with rocking visuals to bring the music alive? It's been tough, but I've managed so far by using stock video available free from Clip Champs, my go-to video editing software. But now there's FreeBeat AI, and it's changing everything. With just one click of a button, FreeBeat AI creates a professional and upload-ready video, which perfectly accompanies my music. It's a game changer and I love it. I don't know how they do it, but they do it better than any software out there. I'm just starting my journey with FreeBeat and I'm feeling thrilled and giddy as to where my journey will lead me. Check out FreeBeat AI Music Video Generator. It's amazing. Sign up now and never look back. Now check this out. I love it and hope you love it too. Thank you FreeBeat AI, you've made all my dreams come true.
God is good and so am I. God is good and so am I. I don't know I'm doing wrong, 'cause I haven't done anything wrong. Unlike certain people who know they have wrong and gaslight projected on to others. I don't know I'm doing wrong, 'cause I haven't done anything wrong. Unlike certain people who know they have wrong and gaslight projected on to others.